Welcome to She's Got Guts, where functional nutrition meets ancient wisdom to bring you grounded insights and practical tools for your wellness journey. Join Laura, licensed Eastern medicine practitioner and wellness wizard, and Molly, registered dietitian and gut health expert, as they unpack trends, tackle bloating, balance hormones, and help you thrive in modern womanhood without completely frickin' losing your mind. Let's do this. Welcome.
Hello,
now we are on.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
Pillar 2, blood sugar response. So we are talking about abdominal fat and the 5 pillars that lead to you gaining more weight around your middle, spare tire, menopause belly, fupa, in after the age of 40, and what to do about it.
Yeah. Super annoying that my pants don't fit.
If you haven't heard us talk about the fat part of it or the fiber part of it, those are episodes 1 and 2. This is episode 3 of a 6-part series. All right.
And
blood sugar.
yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
What even is it?
What is blood sugar? What even is your blood sugar? People are going to be like, I'm not a diabetic. That doesn't matter to me. I'm not insulin sensitive. That doesn't matter to me. I'm not, I guess my A1C was a little bit high and I was, doctor told me that I was like metabolically maybe teetering on becoming diabetic, or like I'm pre-diabetic, but I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm not diabetic yet. Everything still works great.
Okay, well, let me tell you.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. That ain't
okay. Basically what happens is our blood, so when we eat something, it's broken down into the simplest molecule possible. So if it's protein, it's broken down into each individual amino acid, blah, blah, blah. With carbohydrates, we have many different chains. And so there are like long chains of carbohydrates, there are bent chains of carbohydrates, there are short chains of carbohydrates, just like dicks. And as we digest and absorb them, each of the chain links is removed until there's just one molecule left, and that's glucose. Glucose is the only form that can go from your gut to the blood on the other side of your gut. So think of your intestinal wall as a door, and the door opens and the glucose goes out into your vein that goes to the liver. It's called the portal vein. So when we eat carbohydrates, our glucose gets broken down and goes into that vein, into our blood. That's sugar into our blood. Doesn't matter if you ate a bean, if you ate a whole wheat bread, or if you ate a piece of candy, eventually glucose will go into your blood. Now, what doesn't raise our blood sugar at all? Protein or fat, unless it is paired with something, but pure protein or a pure fat, not going to affect your blood sugar at all. Does that mean that if you never ate a carbohydrate, that you would never have a blood sugar problem? On paper, you wouldn't see it, but things would be happening under the surface. Plus, your body needs 150 grams of carbohydrates per day to fuel your brain and run metabolism. Every step of the Krebs cycle, it starts with glucose, and that's what we use to create energy, create cells, metabolize nutrients, grow your hair, beat your heart, all of it, okay? Now, when that glucose goes in the blood, a lot of these guys go in the blood. They walk in there and they're like, yeah, I'm partying here in the blood. Well, insulin is the janitor with the keys.
Sugar party.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like my teenagers at their birthdays. It's a sugar party.
They're like at the school dance, and the janitor is going to let them into the cell so that they can go into that cycle and run all your metabolism. But the janitor, once you hit 40, he's a little older. His keys, sometimes he drops them. He can't open the door as fast. He can't let as many people in the door. So what that means is that insulin still works. It still unlocks the cell and lets the glucose into the cell, but not as fast and not as efficiently as when you were young. Which over time, especially if you have like a ton of glucose and then none, and then a ton and then none, like you skipped lunch or you had a chicken salad, which didn't have any carbs.
That is the root. I'm going to just mark that. Pay attention right now to what Molly's saying. This is the key. You're going to want to. This is the context you're going to come back to.
overall, what that means is that your response, your insulin response, the janitor's motion of unlocking the door is going to become worse and worse. And that's insulin resistance at some point. Insulin resistance, if it goes on too long, turns into diabetes because too much sugar is in your blood and it can't get out of your blood. And that is diabetes, is what percentage, that's your A1C, what percentage of your blood has sugar on it. Blood cells have sugar on them, and how much sugar.
Right. There's no insulin to uptake
if we can't get it out into the cell, that's where we have a problem. Now, what does that mean for your belly?
Well, one thing I just wanted to say real quick is that when you had mentioned protein, I wanted to get a little nuanced here, because some people's blood sugar will spike with protein. Like you'll get what I would call a normal response, is that the metabolism is getting revved up. Maybe you do have a little bit, maybe your liver's like, oh, we need some energy actually to get this protein through the body. So I'm going to dump some glycogen into the bloodstream and make sure we have some fuel. Glycogen is sugar. Yeah. Just a little stored version.
Yeah.
More of them bundled together. The little guys hanging out together. When it dumps it into the bloodstream, then it becomes more singular and you can use it as fuel. But what's interesting is that people sometimes do have a little bit of like when they eat meat, people on like the ketogenic diet are like, oh, I can keep my blood sugar so stable. And it's like, well, sure, within the windows of the super high and the super low, but you do actually get a pretty good spike. And, that's what that's for, is it's for what we would say in Chinese medicine, rottening, ripening, churning. We want to we're creating energy, we're creating heat, we're burning things up, we're burning calories so that we can blink our eyes. All the things that you said, we can grow hair, we can absorb things, we can express, we can cry, we can have energy to button our pants up, like all the different things we need to do. I hear what you're saying in terms of carbohydrates are the main thing. I just think there's a little bit of nuance there too with the other forms, and that the body revs up. And so sometimes, but it's temporary, I guess is what I'm saying. It's a normal temporary thing. So if you're like wearing a glucose monitor and you're like, oh no, this just happened. Well, that's okay. That's your body. Dying. You're not dying. You're not having like extreme spikes that are too much. And then there was one other thing
I was trying to keep it simple, but glycogen is the storage form of glucose. So what happens when we don't eat any carbohydrates, which I am like so vehemently against, it makes me angry to even discuss, is that we actually have to create glucose from non-glucose sources, which is called gluconeogenesis, so that it can be stored in our liver and our muscles to be released for later, like you're talking about, to help to metabolize and all of that. Our body does not like to do that. And over time, it's not good for you either. So just understanding that there's a lot of really tricky metabolic things that happen there, but we're talking more about, I think today, how this relates to abdominal fat.
Well, and I think how it relates to abdominal fat is the theme that I hope we can continue to bring in today, and hope that you really understand, and that it's about front loading. It's not about playing catch up when it comes to stabilizing the blood sugar. And we talked about this in episode 2 when we talked about fiber and setting the tone for the morning. And that actually is a really good concept right now, because when you've done all of that repair in the evening and, you are let's just assume you're sleeping well at this point, and you've done the restoration, you've done the rejuvenation, you've done all the repair, you're feeling mostly good when you wake up in the morning, and now it's time to go throughout the day. And a lot of us will, throw on the glasses, chug some coffee, grab the keys, and we're out the door. Or maybe we're just sitting at the computer for a Zoom. I don't know. Life is different now for a lot of people, but in the long run, you are asking a lot of other systems that aren't necessarily meant for that time to become part of allowing you to generate energy. You're asking your nervous system, you're asking the depths of your blood sugar, you're asking your immunity, you're asking everything basically to come online, but with no fuel source whatsoever. And for women that are perimenopausal, our visceral fat is there as a backup mechanism, so to speak, but it also has a different metabolic burn. It's a different burn. And so when you are waking up and you have this visceral fat and you're already kind of teetering on your insulin, not necessarily knowing what to do because this visceral fat is all snuggled up next to the organs that are related to that system being able to play out, and then you don't go and put some calories in, you're going to start the day in a deficit, and you're asking that visceral fat sort of to work, but mostly to go down a pathway that involves too much inflammation, too much immune system involvement, and way too much insulin that can make that old man standing at the door trying to let all the kids into the party get so worn out.
Yes. Great description. That's a really great description. And so when we think about what happens if things are not stable, by stable to me means that, and I don't like to eat breakfast. So what I found has been working for me is a smoothie with some protein and some healthy fat. And then like an hour or two later, having like a breakfast that's more like a brunch. And then, a couple hours later having lunch and then dinner. So that's one way that I have worked around it because I absolutely hate to eat a lot in the morning. So if you're listening to this and that's you, don't feel like you have no other choice. When I think about stability of blood sugar, I think about a snack with 2 of our 4 friends, or a small meal every 4 hours once you start eating. So if you don't start eating until 11 o'clock, that's fine. This started at 11. But our 4 friends are fiber, fat, protein, and carbs. So carbs has to be paired with fiber, has to be paired with fat, has to be paired with protein, at least one of those things, so that it has a magic carpet on it, so that it does not, it's like, that way, some of the kids go in the door from the school dance to the cell at one time, and then a little bit later, some more of the kids go through. It helps to slow down the response of how quickly things are dumped into your bloodstream. And so pairing the carbohydrate with something gives us the carb that is going to be the most efficient way to raise your blood sugar, and also gives us another nutrient for satiety to feel more full, and also to stabilize how we are absorbing that glucose. So over the day, now what's not stable to me, and what I hear from every single one of my clients at one point or another, is that they will have a breakfast. Let's say it's a banana bread and latte with oat milk. So 2 higher sugar things. And then they have lunch that's like a rotisserie chicken and a salad, no carbohydrates in that. And then they have dinner like a half a sweet potato and, whatever else, protein and a veg. Well, and a glass of wine. So now at night, because it's been since that latte, that since you've had carbohydrates, at night your blood sugar is going to skyrocket because it hasn't been stable. So it's like somebody jumped on one side of the seesaw and the other side is just shooting up, versus if we're like always kind of on balancing the seesaw. What do you think of when you think of balanced blood sugar?
I think of timing. I really, really loved your divided breakfast. And I've actually heard some other humans say this, and I've actually been trying it out a lot myself, especially on mornings when I feel like or on the mornings where I have the time to do the workout earlier. If I'm doing a longer walk and I'm actually jumping the stairs and coming home and lifting some weights, or if I'm just going on a walk, they're different in terms of what I feel like the fuel I need to front load on is. And so if I'm waking up and I have the time, like today, I woke up and I had some carbs and I had some protein, because I was like, those digest quickly. That's not fat just sitting in my belly, really moving slowly, which is what you just had kind of talked about. And I want that there for me to be able to have enough fuel to be able to work out so that my body isn't dipping into my reserves. So I'm using my earth element of my spleen and stomach, and I'm like, stay away from my jing. My jing is very precious. I want that life force to stay there. It's going to help me with my hormones. It's going to help me with my brain power. It's going to help me keep all of my systems stable. I don't want to dip into that. I'm going to give myself fuel right now. And then when I came home, So I had I think you would be very proud of me, Molly. I sauteed some greens I chopped up over the weekend. I had some dandelion and some spinach. And what else did I put in there? Oh, and I love beets. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I love beets. So I had some golden beets, and then I did some brown rice, and I put an egg on top, which is, I know, a little bit of fat and protein, but they settle pretty well in my belly. So I had that before I went on my long walk. Sometimes I would just do an avocado toast. Sometimes I might do an apple with a few slices of cheese. But either way, there has to be something that burns. And don't get me wrong, I also am having a half decaf super cube with 90 grams of, protein and fat combo in there, which also is a really great way to get up and get moving and have steady blood sugar. But what I guess what I'm getting at is, what are you going to do that day? What kind of fuel do you need? And how are you going to time your food so that you're not playing catch up? Like you said before, if you wake up and you're having coffee, like you just mentioned, you have coffee and then you have that series of food that you mentioned. At the end of the day, you're going to be like, I want chips. I want ice cream. You want something that's quick because that part of you is completely depleted. And it's not that running off of the type of fuel that you put in isn't applicable. Those are beautiful foods that you chose. We're not villainizing those foods, but it's the timing based on how you want to express your energy that day. And I think that can be maybe a way that we're not thinking about it. So what would you say with that in mind, Molly, to someone who sits at a desk all day? How do you prepare your body to not add to the visceral fat when you're not moving around as much? You and I think I have a little bit of freedom. When I'm in my acupuncture practice, I'm literally standing around, shuffling around the table, in and out. I have every 10 minutes, I'm sitting down for 10 minutes and typing, but it's I'm constantly moving. So I feel good eating those bigger, more complex protein and fat style meals. But what do we do when we're sitting all the time? Our brain still needs fuel.
Right. So it depends how you feel best. Some people, they'll split up their lunch into two and they'll do half of it at 11 and half of it at 2 instead of just eating one big meal at noon. If it's possible for you to do that, I know that when I'm back to back with clients, I can't, necessarily do that either. But giving yourself a 10-minute period or a 15-minute period to eat a small snack or eat, a small portion of your lunch a couple times throughout the day. Certainly having one meal that's satisfying, but because what happens is, even if you're having your lunch at noon, by the time you get home, if you're a 9 to 5, by the time you get home and eat, it's 6:30. So too much time has gone by. And if you're not having a snack in the evening, then you are going to be standing in front of the fridge eating shredded cheese out of a bag, or, grabbing your kids' Halloween candy or whatever it is that's laying around.
Whatever's in the console on the way home.
Yeah.
I'm really good
or
at
the closest thing in the pantry.
Those snacks, by the way. Yeah.
And there's something that happens in our brain because our body is funneling every single decision making, talking you into it that it has because it needs energy now. So it's going to say, oh, well, those things don't matter. It's going to talk you into being safe and being fed. So instead, planning, even if you're not starving at 3, if you eat lunch at noon, to have something available. And so for some people, that's a protein shake. For some people, it's a protein bar. It doesn't have to be this complex thing. I think the easiest way to do it is just split your lunch into 2 or into 3/4, 1/4, and then just eat that last 1/4 in the afternoon if you don't want to have to deal with snacks or prepare or whatever. But thinking about, okay, here's what my day looks like. Here's how I normally feel. And here are the times when I am starving. And some people, they'll go work out after work and then they really won't. So we want you to be fueled because your workout body. And we'll talk about this in our workout one, in our Joyful Movement episode. But
thank you for that.
I want you to be getting ahead of the times where you are naturally going to be forced by your body into eating, whether you want to or not. And that is, to me, a very important thing to consider. So that would be a big one.
It's funny because in traditional Chinese medicine, I'm recognizing that the way that their nutrition guidelines kind of lay out, the thing that they've always mentioned is have a bigger breakfast. Like you're waking up in the morning and your spleen and stomach are the organs that well, first of all, there's a little bit of jing that gets released in the morning, and you can kind of think of that zippering up with cortisol, like they're kind of coming in side by side, like you have to have a natural rise for that. But we're having this heat start to accumulate. And when you do that, it needs fuel. And so having a big breakfast in the morning will give you a really good base for how you're going to feel for the rest of the day. But a lot of the time, we're waking up and we're having coffee. And then we're having like a quick little carbohydrate because we didn't have anything to run off of. And then we're having like that nice meal that you mentioned. And then we're, going to work out and putting it even more of a deficit. And we're just depleted. So I love, though, that Chinese medicine has always talked about having big breakfast, medium-sized lunch, little snacks and stuff, and then very small dinner for basically what you missed from the day in terms of like nutrients and so on. And then also to set the tone for repair for the evening, which I think is really great. Yeah, that was what came up for me when you were talking. I love that. It's almost like you're flip-flopping it to what our standard American diet would be, just like we just flip-flop the pyramid. Like we literally are just taking the day and flopping it upside down.
But here's the thing. Well, a lot of people do that because they're trying to eat clean or be good or diet or whatever stupid phrase we've been told to use during the day.
Get a lot of control about it.
And you're more awake, you can get away with more. But then by the end of the day, your body is not going to settle for 800 calories of vegetables. So you're going to have to eventually eat something. And it's going to be when you're tired and you've had a long day and the kids have been, you know what I mean? And you have no defenses left. That's when you are most susceptible. Well, guess what? First of all, that food's going to sit in your stomach. It's going to be a lot harder to digest and absorb as you sleep at night. That's going to contribute to abdominal fat. It is going to spike your blood sugar. And that roller coaster, the spike and the crash, contributes to abdominal fat. It's one of the biggest contributors to abdominal fat. And that's why we say in some ways that, with that belly, that's a sign of insulin resistance. And the way that we help insulin work is by not making it work really hard 1 minute and then give it the next 10 hours off. So, if you're awake. So just thinking like, I give myself permission, but it's like people think they need a detox because they feel puffy and bloated and inflamed. And so what we really need is to stop thinking that food needs to be perfect during the day and then falling victim to the fact that we didn't eat all day. At night. How to work through that and how to reframe your brain, because there is so much that has gone into our programming at this point in life about what we should and shouldn't do. And it just drives these decisions in such a crappy way, in a way that is not doing you any favors.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we talked about that in the first draft of our first episode of this, but I don't know if it actually came through on the one we just re-recorded. So I'm going to say it. When, we have actually been trained that a caloric deficit and high exercise is what's going to get us to lose weight. And actually, this is completely the opposite. It's completely the opposite now. If you do have a lot, you should be working out. If you have a lot, if you are severely overweight, you should be working out for sure. And HIIT classes are going to burn it off and you can't be overeating. And that makes sense, right? Of course. However, if you are, just have this perimenopausal FUPA, things we called it this morning, and you want to make sure that you're doing what you can to do it, it isn't about eating less. It's about front loading. And it's interesting because to me, it's a lot more about being mindful that this is a time to truly deeply nourish yourself. And really really honor that time that your energy is shifting and you have to use it very wisely. And I think intuitively, we all know that there's a lot of wisdom there that's coming, but it's so chaotic that it's hard to feel really grounded. But when you do front load your blood sugar, or like front load your quote unquote calories, I guess you'd say, or front load your food to where you have it there available ready for you, or you're just digesting it and you just feel good because you have energy. You're not going through your old routine, which was what used to work. And you're like, why do I feel like shit? Well, I'm sorry. It just doesn't work that way anymore. You can't get away with that. It just doesn't.
It doesn't. And remembering that you did in your 20s, you could just not eat for a few days or do the cabbage soup diet or whatever it was, and you would lose a significant amount of weight. That's not going to happen. And the more that you try to force your body into starvation mode during this time of life, the longer that belly is going to stick around, because then your body says, all right, fine. Well, thank God I have some reserves here that I can burn when you don't give me what I need, and I will still be able to keep you alive. And so instead of having this contentious relationship with your body where you're trying to hate it into doing what you want, Mother Nature, I think at this point in our lives, there's a big, and like, who knows biologically or ancestrally where this came from.
Epidemiologically?
I feel like now...
Evolutionarily? Is that the adjective we're looking for?
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. I feel like now, today, what we can say is it's time for you to take care of yourself. It's time for you to start giving less of a fuck about everybody else. And it's time to finally put in the work to do the things to get the results that are going to set you up for a long and healthy life. So that is strength training for your bones that we'll talk about. It is supporting your nervous system and all of that other shit. But most importantly, it's eating and deciding that you feel comfortable and safe enough to eat, even though you may not look the way that you think you should look based on what you're doing. And if based on what you're doing, which is so hard and so arduous, you're not seeing the results that you want, then change what you're doing.
Yeah, it's easy to have that default of like, man, I'm just feeling so puffy today. I'm just gonna skip breakfast. It'll make me feel a little bit better. Actually, it won't. Like maybe in that little decision you made based on the old version of you that made you feel like you checked some weird box, and all of a sudden you created a little dopamine in that familiar decision. No, I'm sorry. That's not how it works. You need to nourish yourself from the beginning, at the beginning. Even if you're a shift worker, you still have to wake up and give yourself that fuel you need for the day.
Right.
I don't know if I said this about this splitting the 2 meals in half, but I was really focused on, and I think this is a great way to go. I've noticed it actually is making me feel a lot more tone. You know how that fluffiness is there, the stabilization. It's a real dance trying to figure it out. So I'm sensitive to carbs. So I've been like, what is working good for me? And so I've been trying the carb and the protein in the morning and then following it with a little more rich protein and fat and of course some fiber, but kind of throwing the fat in afterwards. I don't know if I said that before, but I did put a little bit of Parmesan cheese on there and it was good. And I forgot to say I also put in garbanzo beans. So it's basically like a little scramble, which is kind of what I've been craving. I've been craving like these little breakfasty scrambles that, and I feel so satiated afterwards. It's just lovely.
And a lot of people who are carb sensitive are okay with fruit and beans, and like corn, but maybe less okay with the simple carbohydrates or, high
like
amounts
bread
of
and rice.
carbs. Right.
Yeah. I always
or
feel
potato,
a little fluffy with bread and rice and things.
Yeah. But there are so many other sources of carbohydrates that can be incorporated into the diet. Cheese is another one, for people who can tolerate it. So just remembering that there are a million ways to do this, and you can figure it out, but it's going to require experimentation and doing things that you normally would not do. And 100% of women who are trying to lose weight, come to me and say, well, I just can't lose weight even though I'm doing all these things. And as soon as they start eating more carbohydrates, even if it's just, 50 more grams of complex carbohydrates throughout the day, 100% of them lose weight.
Yeah. Which is the total opposite of what you would normally think. I know. But you have to have that fuel. And I feel like the sitting at the desk thing, I think it is different for everybody, but in the big picture, I like coming back to those 4 things that you mentioned. Like, you do need your brain needs to run. Your organs need to run.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not doing as much muscle work, maybe like if you're not like lifting heavy weights and that sort of thing, maybe you don't need as much protein, but well, people may be like, you don't need as much protein. What are you talking about? I'm perimenopausal. I need all the protein. That's like my main job. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But also there's nuance there. Are you
Right.
able to actually burn it off when you're just sitting? Or do you need to pair that up with something like you said, a carbohydrate with what that will help you burn that off a little bit more? And your brain loves everything. I always think it's funny that your brain loves fat and your brain loves carbohydrates. I'm like, how does your brain love both of those? That's so weird, but it really does.
It does.
And your brain's doing most of the work when you're sitting there, aside from your mouse hand or your dictation or whatever. But your brain is really busy and it requires fuel. So you can't sit there and think, oh, I can just run off of my reserves here and keep my brain going. You've got your ticker to worry about. You've got your bones to nourish. You've got your joints to keep fluid. You've got your ovaries. You got all your hormones in the back. Everything needs fuel. It's not just about making your muscles strong.
Right.
Although that is very important.
If you're sitting at a desk and you're concerned, sorry, I didn't answer your question. You can do a couple squats. You did. You can do a couple squats every hour. Just stand and do some squats. Your watch will tell you to stand. You can set a timer to stand. I have like a little stepper, like a rocking thing like a balance board that I will go and like just between clients for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just to, or like go downstairs, get something to drink, come back upstairs, just to move some blood around, because that actually does help with your insulin response as well. And then at lunch, if after lunch, if you have an hour for lunch, then 10 minutes of that can absolutely be a little walk.
Yeah. And I know that people may not feel like this is very effective when it comes to like being in the bubble of this blood sugar conversation, but it actually is very effective. And that is taking 1 minute timer, closing your eyes and taking 5 or 6 very deep breaths with a slow exhale in through the nose, out through the mouth, maybe a sigh, maybe it's super stressful and you need to just whatever it is. But the more you move your lungs, the more you move that oxygen, the more you move your blood, the more you're assisting digestion, you're assisting the metabolism. The lungs are a really big part of that. So even just something as simple as taking a deep breath can be very helpful.
Yeah. And nutrition advice is boring. The stuff that works is not clickbait. It's not glamorous. It's not something new every week, because if any of those things worked, you wouldn't still be listening to this podcast after 30 minutes.
No.
You'd be like, oh, no, I saw one video on TikTok per week and did something new every week, and now I'm fine.
Yeah. I'm going to go from the cabbage diet to the celery diet to the watermelon diet to the cantaloupe diet. And now I'm going to the
carnivore, to the keto.
Yeah.
To the
I'm just going to see which one works best. Which one is making my butt look big? None.
Well, and this is about health. Like, yes, I want my pants to fit. Laura wants her pants to fit. We all want our pants to fit. Okay. So science aside, I do understand for vanity reasons, but also more than that, like if I have to size up one size of pants and I get to live that much longer because I'm flexible and I'm strong and I'm well nourished, that's fine.
Yeah. It was so interesting recently going through my closet. I was like, well, I don't, I have like a certain size that I've been for a really long time. And I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of going a little above that now, just kind of in my waist. So I'm going to be it's not like I'm stopping working out or whatever. I'm finding my recipe that works for me. But there was some clothes that were more on like when I maybe was stressed out or thinner or working out more, or, just more in my 20s and late 30s. And I was like, you know what? I just don't think that this isn't something that my body will ever get into again. Like, I don't imagine if I did, it would mean I was very unhealthy. So I'm not even going to pretend or even have these around anymore. But the hard part is that they're so beautiful. Some of the clothes are so beautiful. And I'm like, oh, I'm sad. But I feel you, and that it's nice to have a couple of pairs that fit you a little differently that are maybe a size up, but it just provides this level of comfort. And also, it doesn't remind me all the time. Like when my pants are uncomfortable,
Right.
I'm uncomfortable because it reminds me all the time. And I'm like, well, this is stupid. I actually look, I mean, in the big picture,
Right.
I've always been very thin. So this 20 pounds, people are like, well, you look great, Laura. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I need to feel good too. And that is like
Right.
part of this midsection that, I'm like working on. But, and it even feels weird to say that because I've really never been in that zone. But it is nice to have that comfort of like, these things are super cute and they fit really well. And they may end up being just those pieces that last forever while I throw the other ones in from time to time.
Right.
But being comfortable is really important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think because for me, it was like a lot of like not buying new jeans. And like there are other things, obviously. Yeah. But if your pants don't fit, then the shirt that does fit you doesn't look as good. And when you sit down, you're putting your hands across your stomach and you're not feeling as confident. And, you're hunched over and your posture isn't. And like it's just this ripple effect. And then you're going to continue to say, well, I can't have, a piece of bread with my salad because look at me, I'm such a fat piece of shit.
No,
And
that's not it.
none of that is true. Right? Like,
it's just not true.
So it's okay. I'm not saying just keep sizing up and ignoring, your health or feeling like you're out of control. And like that's a different conversation.
Right. And I think there's probably a lot of weightlifting, bodybuilding people out there that are like, no, you can completely transform your body and be just one big giant muscle. And I think that there's elements of that are very healthy.
50 hours a week on it.
You need to put a lot of time into that.
Yeah. And really eliminate a lot of things that bring you joy. And so for me, joy is very important. And so is, the socializing that I do. And so are eating foods that I love. So I'm certainly never going to be one of those people.
No. Well, and I've just been so health-minded for so many years. Like I kind of have always been that person who like, I never really ate much gluten. I wasn't a huge drinker. I've gone through my drinking phases, don't get me wrong. But, I was like, I'm not a huge sweet person. I'm not like dying to have the cake at the end of really dessert and that sort of thing. But now that I'm like close to 50, I'm like, well, there's going to be a better balance here because there are things in my life that I want to enjoy forever. And I'm going to make space and energy and front load so that I can enjoy them. And honestly, I think you could use that even in your 20s and 30s. That's super wise advice for that. What I would tell my younger self.
Right. Learn how to eat in the morning and learn how to just kind of nourish yourself, right? But whether you're just learning it today or you learned it a long time ago, remembering that this is a new phase of your life and it comes with things that are really crappy and it comes with things that are actually kind of amazing. And I'm always surprised by, what people say to me and how I feel personally and how things just unfold in this phase of life. But for me, what resonates most is that I get to take back control of my life and rebuild resilience in a different way and think about things that I never would have thought about before. Like it would have just been about how I look or what I wanted to do or, what the goal was. And so all of those things, the priorities shift. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I love what you just said about building resilience in a different way because it's laced with so much more wisdom and a acceptance of like this new, I shouldn't say new, but like a body that isn't meant for just reproducing and attraction. Like it's meant for living and wisdom and sharing that wisdom of those times. Yeah.
Well, and like you can really still, beautiful. Oh, thanks. You can still hustle and you can still like hit it and you can still be dedicated and motivated. But I think it comes, like you're saying, from a different place. We're doing it for a different outcome.
It comes from like more of a steady motivation and a steady drive. And that is exactly like the emote that would go along with the stable blood sugar, like 100%.
Yes. Studies show that knowing who the fuck you are does lower your A1C.
I love it.
No, they don't. They don't.
We might have to do a bonus episode on boundaries at the end of this one, just because it really does tie into all the physiology.
Ooh, boundaries. Okay. Thank you so much. Next week, we're going to do another one. So we got 3 left of this topic.
Woo, here we go. Hope you're enjoying it. See you next week.
Thank you so much for listening. We offer personalized support to clients in many ways and would love to work with you. Reach out to Laura at Lala's Wellness and Molly at Women's Gut Health for more information. Unlock your full health and hormone potential with Super Q, Boom Bomb, and Best Tea. Check out the link in the show notes for more. See you next Saturday.